Hello and welcome to Books and Beyond. I'm Jimmy Bennett, your host. Books and Beyond is a show where we try to help people personify their aspirations. Though my guest today doesn't need my help getting to be well known. Before we get started though, I just want to give a little shout out to the Connecticut Authors and Publishers Association. They're a writers group that meets every third Thursday of the month at the Groton Town Library at 6:30. If you have anything to do with the written word, writer, publisher, wannabe, just interested, please come by. Always looking for more people to stop by and say hey. Yeah. So I want to get right to the show today though because I'm very excited. I have Mr. Jim Streeter.
Jim, nice to meet you.
Jim is an author and a town historian, the town historian, right?
Yep, I am.
So now, how did you get started as becoming the town historian?
That's a long trail. Actually, I'm a native of Groton. I was born in East Haven, but I moved here when I was 6 months old, so I consider myself a native. Yeah. All right, and so I know a lot about Groton. I grew up here. All right, I grew up in Pequannock. Then I moved over to the borough, which is now the city of Groton. My family owns a business over there. Had been in business for over 60 years. All right, so I know the area, and I went on the local police department, and I started talking with some of the old timers, and I'd say, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Well, it just enveloped me. At that point, it enveloped me. And within 10 or 15 years, one, I had a collection, and two, I had a wealth of knowledge that I had obtained. But I also hooked up with my mentor, Carol Kimball, who used to be the former historian for the town. And she and I hit it right off, and I just sat there and grasped everything she said. Right, and just kept it like an encyclopedia.
Yep.
Right. So between that and the collection, and then I started writing articles, and Carol was writing articles at the same time. And coincidentally, we both got contacted by a book company to write a pictorial history book on Groton. And there's another woman, Marilyn Comrie. She was an editor at the Norwich Bulletin. She was Carol's good friend, and she was a historian also. So we decided, all right, the three of us, let's put a book together. So we did. We put out a pictorial history book, an Arcadia book, called Groton. And I believe there's close to 200 photographs in each book or in an Arcadia book. Well, we finished the first book, and it was a blockbuster as far as selling in Groton. Right. Everybody in Groton was very interested in local history, and rightfully so. Yeah. We had sufficient material left over. We said, let's do a second one. So we did the second one, and it's been going on and on and on since then. But Carol got into her 90s, and she started failing a little bit, and then she passed away. And I happened to be on the town council at the time, and they wanted to, they put out to replace her, applications to replace her. So I did, and the council did their due diligence, went to the attorneys and said, look, we have a town councilor that's qualified, but we don't want to, can we appoint him as the town historian? So ultimately they did, and that's been 10 years ago.
Wow. So you're going to keep going then?
Yeah, for a while.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. And it's something I've always encouraged, and I encourage people on the show to write down even just their family history or, little notes here and there, because I'm fascinated, as I told you earlier, my family's from Long Island. We came over before America was America. And I'm always fascinated by these stories that the old people would tell, or the old timers, my grandfather, and so much gets lost.
I can give you Jim, the nightmare stories. I talked a little bit earlier about putting a presentation together on the Mystic River bridges. We had hundreds of pictures of the bridges. Now, there were 9 bridges there, including temporaries. But like a lot of family pictures, turn them over, there's nothing on the back.
See what
so
day
you say,
it was.
when was that? And who is in there?
Right.
All right. So that's one problem.
Right.
The second problem is people throw this stuff away.
Yeah.
When I was on the police department, we used to develop our own films, and I'd look at the old pictures that were in there. And they went back to the 1930s and 1940s, and I'd look at them and say, don't look at the accident. Look at the buildings in the back, because they're all gone.
Right.
So that's, that's when I was beginning my collection. because I couldn't collect those. So 10 years later, I go down to the police station and said, look, could I borrow some of those pictures? Scan them and, no, we threw them all away. I said, you threw history away.
Yeah.
And so you're right. That's what's important. You've got to write it down. You've got to save it.
Yeah, I'm going to say you don't have to, it doesn't have to be for the whole world, but your kids and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren
Yes.
would be very, very interested in seeing that.
Yes.
I mean, I'm always clamoring for anything I can find on my family.
Yeah.
And, we talked about how the landscape changed. How much the landscape's changed since, I mean, I'm 63. I moved here when I was 14. I was a Navy brat.
Yeah.
We moved into Noank when I was 14. And how much the landscape has changed since then.
It's unbelievable.
And, I mean, you can go back and forth. It was better in the old days. But I mean, but the changes, and when I talk to people, even when I talk to my kids, and I go, hey, when I was a kid, this was all open, or this was
That's right.
that, and this was this,
Yep.
You're like, wow, I didn't, I
And
didn't know
you
this.
can't believe the number of phone calls or if I'm out, Jim, what used to be here?
Right.
Right? Fortunately, I've collected a lot.
Yeah.
And I would say probably 70% of the time I can provide a photograph, which is so important
Wow.
to those people.
Yeah.
And talking about photographs, I have, and I mentioned to you, I relinquished my collection, my
Right.
personal collection of Groton to the public library. And the last that will go over there will be the photographs. Well, let me give you an idea on photographs. I have several files on my computer. Of course, it's backed up around the world.
Right.
And one major file, has over 34,000 photographs of Groton.
Wow.
All right. So that will be going to the library. And of course, it's backed up, so I'm not worried about it
Right.
being lost. But that's important because 50 years from now, somebody's going to ask something, and
Right.
we have pictures.
Right.
And now, the pictures I have, they go back to
Right.
1850.
Right.
Right? And I bring it all the way up. Thames Street, for instance, I've given presentations now and then on what Thames Street looked like then and what it looks like now. And every year I go down there and I take pictures of every building.
Yep.
All right? So we'll have it.
Yep.
And I mark the back of them.
Yeah, right.
Or identify them.
Yep.
Right,
That's-
so they know what they are.
It's I think, like you say, like how much the landscape, how many things have changed. It's good to know.
Yeah.
And just the family history and stuff. I remember my father-in-law, like I told you, he grew up here. He went through the '38 hurricane. He was like 10 years old. Went through World War II, but I mean, he lived here his whole life, and just the stories he would tell, I was just like, really.
I have breakfast every morning at a local restaurant on Groton Road. And for years, I've been having breakfast with old timers. I call them old timers.
Yeah.
Right? One is 97, a native of Groton. The other is now 101,
Wow.
a native of Groton. They're both smart as a whip.
Wow.
And they're just treasure trove to me.
They call you on
They'll say,
stuff?
hey Bill, or Everest,
Yeah.
what used to be here? Can you tell me? And they'll come up with,
Yeah.
just a wealth.
So you have what, 6 books?
6 books.
All right. So your first one was what?
The
Groton?
first one was Groton,
Okay.
all right?
And that's pictorial history. of
That
Groton?
pictorial history that was written by Carol Kimball,
Yep.
Marilyn Comrie, and myself. And that sold several thousands of copies in Groton.
Nice.
And then, like I said, we had sufficient material to do a second one. So a couple years later, because I believe the first one came out in 2004. 2007, we put another one together, and it was called Groton Revisited. All right. So that kind of caught up with, the old time Groton.
Oh, that picture there, where is that?
That's in Mystic. That's a launching of a boat in Mystic. If we went back to the first one was a launching of a boat down on Thames Street.
Wow.
Yeah, the Lou. That was the Lou.
That's another thing, the shipbuilding and stuff
Oh.
that's been lost. People don't realize just how many ships were built around here.
Between Groton and Mystic, Noank, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
We're rich in maritime history.
Oh, yeah. Really.
Unbelievable.
And you see the boats on the water and the paddle boats and the kayaks and stuff. What do you think? Man, they used to launch clippers and steamships and
They built some big boats here.
Yeah, they built some big boats here.
And now where we're at now,
Yeah.
with electric boat,
Right.
right? You look at the ships that are built there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Still going.
Yep.
So what was your third book after that, then?
Well, the third one was I was writing a weekly article for the Groton Times newspaper, And it's taxing
Yep.
to do it once a week. And I did that for 5 years. And a lot of people don't receive the Groton Times
Right.
newspaper. So I said, there's some interesting articles, and people ask, geez, I didn't get that. Could you send me a copy of it? So I did a compilation of about 100, little over 100 of the articles, put them into a book, and just called it Groton Bits and Pieces.
Right.
Right, put that together.
Well, that's good though.
It is.
And I would encourage people, sometimes you have to, you can contact the Groton Times if you want to get a copy. They don't give it to everybody or whatever, but if you contact them and you tell them that you want a copy, you'll probably get it.
Let me tell you a secret about that. The Groton Times is a subsidiary of the Day newspaper.
Right.
If you're computer literate, a little bit, I'm not complete,
Yeah.
but I know how to do this.
Yeah.
Right? Go to the Day site, www.theday, and their page comes up. Up at the top, there's a magnifying glass. That's your search block. Write in the name Jim Streeter. And every time my name is mentioned in the newspaper, it'll come up. So every article I wrote for the Groton Times is in there.
Oh, okay.
All right, you can go back to 2015.
Oh, good. All right, okay.
Yep. And I do that period. I
Right.
need to do some research on a
Yeah,
previous
you
article
want
I
to?
wrote.
Did I already say this? Did I already say that once? Yeah.
So there's the secret. for
Oh,
it.
okay. All right.
So that was the idea of putting that book together.
It must have been tough picking out of all those articles, picking out what was.
Yes, and I guess a lot of it was based. I try to give a variety of it.
Right.
But and after being involved for so long, what people are constantly asking you about.
Right.
So you
Right.
kind of generalize that, but people, places, things.
Right.
Keep those things.
Yep.
Give them a variety of that. All right. Then the next book wasn't going to be a book. Right. I have several hats in it, and I help people out. I belong to the Fitch Alumni Association
Okay.
because I graduated from
Yeah.
Fitch. So what they do is, it's hypothetically, the kids need a new scoreboard, and the town council and the RTM, the government officials say, can't afford it this year. Board of Education, no, can't afford it this year. The Alumni Association will kick in some money to
Right.
help support that. All right. So they asked me, geez, can you let's do a fundraiser. I said, okay. I said, why don't we have a wine and cheese? Have people over, have wine and cheese. And what I'll do is I'll give a small presentation, slide presentation on a little bit of history on the high school, for Robert E. Fitch High School. And I'll put together a booklet, maybe 15, 20 pages with some of the pictures into it. Well, I got engulfed into it. I found information that was just distributed all over the place. It was hidden. It was under counters at the libraries, at the high school, at the junior high school, people's homes. It was all over the place. So I started compiling it and then organizing it, and then I started writing it. And I got up to page 115. And I said, this no longer is a booklet.
Yeah.
This is a book.
Wow.
So I produced that. We had a fundraiser, raised a considerable amount of money. That was good. It was real good. And now people, they have their reunions. Jim, can we get 30 copies of the book?
I was just thinking that I just had my 45th reunion last week, and it's too bad because that I didn't realize, and the school's changed so much now. I mean,
yeah.
even since I graduated in '77.
Okay.
Now I walk in. The last time my kids graduated from it, and when I went in there, I was like,
Oh yeah. I'm
oh
amazed.
my
by
God,
it. I'm amazed. Of course, being involved in local politics and stuff, I know the money and
Right.
the thoughts that went into it. It's a top-notch school.
Yeah.
I mean, it's top-notch.
Yeah.
I graduated in '63 when it was a campus style.
Yeah.
All right.
How long has it been there? Or how long has Fitch been there?
1929.
Is that right? See, I didn't know that.
No, not up at the top of the hill. The one that's on the bottom of the.
Down by the
down by the
town
Dairy
hall,
Queen.
Yeah, by Dairy Queen.
Yep.
That was
that
the
was
original?
the first one. That
Oh,
was the first
wow.
one. That's what we started with there. Yep. It
Wow.
was donated by the father of Robert E. Fitch.
Was there a big class back then? Were they smaller or what?
It was a smaller class.
Yeah.
All right. The first class actually graduated in '31 because
Okay.
they let they were going to different schools back then. The seniors were going to Norwich and Mystic and
Right.
all over. So they didn't have a graduating class the first time. They let them graduate from the schools they had been going
Right.
to. So the first class graduated in '31, and I think there was like maybe 60 people in it.
Wow.
And I know my class, I had 300 and something people.
Yeah. I think we had 400 or 500 in mine. It was a big class, you know?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so that's interesting. That'd be.
So that wasn't going to be a
check that
book, but it ended up being a book.
Right.
Right. And then the next one, I had a retired fire captain from the city fire department came to me, and he had several photographs of fire departments, and he says, "Hey Jim, why don't we do a book on the city fire department?" Well, having a law enforcement background, haven't been a police officer, haven't been involved in politics. Let me tell you, we have a lot of emergency services departments in Groton. All right, and it's always, how come we have 3 police departments and 5 fire departments? Well, I said, let's do one better. Why don't we put a book together on all the emergency services between Groton and Mystic? Put it in one book.
Right.
Fire departments, ambulances, the police departments, sub-base, fire, electric boat, Pfizer, everybody. You know how many departments we have? Over 22.
Wow.
So we put it together, and that was an interesting thing because you learned a lot. You say, "Oh my God!" Right. So that was the 5th book. That was in 2016, and then the following year, I had been doing some research. It took me almost 3 years to do this. As a veteran, I'm quite interested in the veteran memorials, veteran war memorials. I was sitting in the Congregational Church with my wife one day, and I looked over underneath the stained glass window, and I saw this bronze plaque, and I said to the wife, I said, "What's the plaque for?" Oh, so after service, we went over and looked. It was dedicated to the members of the church that fought in World War II.
Oh, wow.
I said, "You're kidding." I said, "This is obscure. Nobody knows this thing is here." And it did have people's names on it.
Right.
And I said, this, gotta announce this. People got to know. I said, I wonder how many more there are. So I started looking. It took 3 years, and we have over 100 memorials in Groton.
Wow.
So they're all over the place. So what I did, I put them into a book, and it's a directory. So now they're all there.
That's incredible. I didn't realize we had that. You know what I mean? I know a few of them, but and of course the big ones. And every once in a while, I have noticed that every once in a while you'll come across a rock somewhere with a brass plaque stuck into it. You know what I mean? And you read it and you're like, wow.
Here's one, and I'll bet you anybody that has gone to the town hall in Groton, you go there to go to the clerk's office, probate office, pay your taxes, whatever. You go in the side door, and you go up the stairs. Okay? When you go in that door, look to the right. There's a plaque in there that's probably 6 feet by at least 8 or 10 feet with the names of every soldier in World War I from Groton.
Oh, wow.
There's over 400 names on that plaque.
Wow.
That is so obscure. You walk right past it.
What are the oldest ones? Like, there must be some from the Revolutionary War?
Well, you go to the Revolutionary War one, sure, absolutely.
Is there a few of those? Or?
There are, and you'll find most of those are in the city, but you'll find some that are in Mystic that are older. Right? They go back. A lot of your cemeteries have some markers also, not just gravestones, but markers.
Right. Yeah.
Right? There's one at the Colonel Legend Cemetery I always talk about. Then there's some controversy about this. We have one person that has been awarded the Medal of Honor in Groton. That was Robert A. Gray, and he won it in the Civil War, and they have a monument for him in the cemetery at his gravesite.
Okay.
All right, so that one's there. But yeah, Fort Grizzle has quite a few of the things. So.
Yeah, I was just wondering, Revolutionary War, is there 1812? Is there any monuments from the
There's a few in 1812 that are around.
Because there was a few battles around here.
Yeah, there were. There's one over in Mystic on that one. I don't think there's one in Groton. There's some stories about the Groton, the War of 1812, but there's no real plaques or anything like that. But they're all over, and that's the idea of having the book. Yep. We have what it is, where it is, and a small photograph of it.
Right.
So.
Well, it's just I think that's important. It's like I've actually had. If you really look in this area, how many parks, monuments, public houses for, farms, stuff like that.
Yes.
You'd be amazed. People drive by this stuff every day and they don't realize,
No.
that's open to the public. You can go there.
You can.
You can go there actually and look around.
And look around and learn things.
And learn stuff, yeah. And I think that's what I try to make. I always hope people get more and more aware of their local, of the local rich history you have here.
I remember several years ago, the high school called me and asked me, they had 2 classes for history. And they were going to combine the classes and said, could you give a presentation? Well, kids are kids. They're growing up. They got other things to think about. But this is related to their history class. So I gave this presentation, and I gave photographs of probably maybe 15 different locations, different landmarks in Groton, between Mystic and all the way over to the city, so between the borders. And they kind of ho-hummed and looked at them and listened and stuff like this. And I said to the teacher, next week, get a school bus. And we took them to the sites themselves and let them touch it. And that's when they took a grasp of it.
Right, that's when they
said, I've been by this place 100 times. I didn't know this was here. I said, okay.
Never stopped and looked.
Yeah.
And that's important.
And it's important because we've got to not teach them, but we've got to interest the kids.
Right.
Somebody's going to have to take over.
Anything that helps, I think anything that helps build our sense of community.
Yeah.
In this world, this social media, these Facebook craze and everything, people on their phones all the time and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's still the community, keeping a strong community is what makes this worth living around here. Makes it a beautiful place.
Yeah.
And this is all part of it. And that's what I really hope that people will really take heed and, start really learning about it and passing it on. And like I said, and recording it. Everybody, there's things that happen all the time, that if you wrote them down, you'd be surprised, but people would be interested. If not now, in 50 years, 100 years.
And you just hit it on the head. Like I mentioned, I was in high school. I didn't care.
Yeah.
I didn't care.
Yeah.
But as I got older, and I see that when I give presentations or I come out with a new book and people buy it, it's usually they're in their 50s.
Yep.
And now they're really interested. And most of the calls and communications, letters and emails that I get from inquiries are from the people over 50.
Yep.
They care now. They care.
Yeah, they want to know.
Yeah.
And they want to pass it on.
Yeah.
And it's good.
Yeah.
You got any favorite spots that you like that are not well known, or anything you would highly recommend people to check out?
Well, of course, Fort Grizzle is very, very important. If you go up there, there's a tremendous amount of history up there. But there are historical facilities around, all right? And I mentioned one to you because you're looking at doing some research, is the Mystic River Historical Society. They have the Noank the Legend Historical Society, New London County Historical Society. They all have collections. My collection, Groton per se, we had a small historical society. It went defunct. So the collection that Carol Kimball had and the collection that I had, let me tell you the size of the collection that I contributed to the town, because this thing took a life of its own. I had 2 walk-in closets, a spare bedroom, an attic, and then I started with my daughter's garage.
Wow.
Now, with the walk-in closets, you figure 8 feet by 12 feet.
Wow.
In one of those, I had 22 plastic file drawers stacked.
Wow.
On top of those, photographs, drawings. In front of those bins, probably 8 to 10 bins stacked all the way up.
Wow.
That was loaded. All right. That's went over to the library. And rightfully so. Yes, I have been collecting it almost like a local historical hoarder.
Yeah.
All right. Doesn't belong to me. Maybe physically and monetarily I purchased it. Doesn't belong to me. History belongs to you and Frank and everyone.
Yep.
And you have to share it.
Yep.
Right? So that's when I said, give it to the library. Now everybody can enjoy it, everybody can share it.
Well, we only got a few minutes left, but I wanted to ask you a little bit, because this fascinates me too as a mystery writer. Your forensic business, you've been very, very busy with that, huh?
Well, I have a law enforcement background, local police officer, and I have my degrees in law enforcement. And then I went to the State Police Forensic Science Laboratory because I had learned or taken on a discipline as a question document examiner, which includes the majority of that work, is handwriting expert. All right. So, and you have to, the only way you can learn that is through apprenticeship.
Yep.
Although I've been to the Secret Service schools and the FBI schools to learn these. So I went to the State Police Lab in 1995, and I retired out of there 15 years later. All right. And now I have a private forensic evidence business. And I'm a document examiner, a handwriting examiner, a footwear expert, and a tire track expert. So it keeps me busy. I have a private business to do it. And,
Yeah.
I enjoy doing it. And
I don't know where you find the time. But
I don't either.
God bless you, man. God bless
I don't
you.
either.
You know?
My wife says, "What do you got to give something up?"
Yeah, when are you going to mow the lawn?
But it is a good position to have. It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Very busy.
Yeah, it's important. Yeah, unfortunately, probably is. But
But you know, I'm glad I got into that field, and it's an important field in today's criminal justice system.
so, what do you got coming up? Do you got another book coming up? Or you...
I have a couple on the burner. All right. One, again, I've been writing now for the Groton Times since 2017, a monthly article,
Yep.
and I'm up to number 65.
Oh, wow.
So I think with those, I'll put another compilation book together. I have a file drawer that I've been researching probably for a good 8 years on Mother Bailey. You've heard of the Mother Bailey house down on Thames Street.
Right.
A lot of history. Unfortunately, even with the research, I don't think it's appropriate. I don't think I could do a biography, birth to death. So it's just going to be a compilation of all of her information. So those are on the burner now.
Well, we'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming on the show. This is a subject dear to my heart, anyways.
Yes,
I love
it is.
local history and stuff. Yeah. So, and I hope, like you said, if you listen to us, you'll start writing things down once in a while. Take a few pictures, put them aside, keep them.
Well, call me.
Yes, or call Jim Streeter if you need a picture. All right.
Or want me to scan a picture.
Yeah. Yep. And you know, let's keep it alive and keep our community going. And I just think knowing the history just helps us move forward in the future.
It does.
It's a great thing. Well, thank you very much,
Thank you, Jim.
All right, this has been Books and Beyond.
Yep.
I'm Jimmy Bennett, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.